Hi everyone, welcome back to Write Better Together with Peggy and Kennedy, and thank you for tuning in for Writers Wednesday. And today we are blessed to have an interview with a very special person, and the Director of Special Collections at the University of Tulsa, Melissa Kurtz, is it?
Coons.
Kuntz, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the special collections at the University of Tulsa. Could you please tell our viewers a little bit about it?
Yeah, so Special Collections here at TU is the department in the library that basically we handle all the old stuff. So we are the rare books and manuscripts department. Our department has about 150,000 volumes. They may be rare and valuable. There might be something really unique or special about them. And then we also have manuscripts, so that's pretty much anything paper-based. That's things like journals, photographs, manuscripts that may be proofread, early drafts of manuscripts. We have those kinds of materials. And we also have things like artifacts and artwork in the collection. So our main areas of study that we specialize in are the modernist literary movement of the early 20th century. So we have a lot of stuff related to folks like James Joyce, the Irish author, and a lot of his contemporaries as well. We are big on British, Irish, and American authors particularly. But we also collect a lot of historical materials. So we have a strong emphasis, of course, in the state of Oklahoma, in the history of Indian Territory, and of course the Tulsa Race Massacre collection. But we also collect things on the western expansion of the Americas. And we have a strong pop culture collection as well. So we have things like comic books, cookbooks, like handwritten cookbooks from the 1700s. We have a lot of stuff on Sherlock Holmes. So it's a very broad scope of things, but when we specialize in a certain topic, we go all in. So one of our specialty areas is Walt Whitman. That's actually how it's one of the collections that we got started with. So we have, in addition to a first edition of Leaves of Grass, we have over 150 different editions of Leaves of Grass, so we try and collect every one that comes up. So we have a very, very complete look at how different people have interpreted and treated it. We even have an artist book version that actually has little leaves of grass to represent the poem itself. So that's really cool too. So we have a ton of stuff up here for people to come look at. So we receive these materials. Sometimes people donate them to us, sometimes we purchase them, and it's our job as the librarians and archivists to organize everything in a way that makes sense to researchers, students who want to come see the materials, and to facilitate that access. So we get visitors from around the world who want to come do research with us. We work with them to make that happen, or if folks can't come see us in person, we do scan the materials for a fee, and they can work with us to make that happen too.
Awesome. So it's not just limited to the students on campus. Anyone can go visit.
Yeah, so we are open to the public. We are open Monday through Friday. 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. is when the reading room is open. Sometimes we see researchers who come and stay in Tulsa and come do research with us, especially in the summer, because that tends to be when the academic calendar makes it easier for them to do this, but they may come stay and do research with us for a couple weeks at a time, or sometimes even a couple months at a time. So we see all variety of different people, of course, because we do see a lot of local people from Oklahoma and from Tulsa who want to do maybe some genealogical research, or they're interested in local history stuff as well.
Awesome. That's really incredible. Are there any other special collections at other universities, or is this just limited to TU?
Yeah, so special collections is actually a pretty common type of department in a lot of libraries. They exist worldwide, and there are even some special collections departments in major public libraries, like the New York Public Library has its own special collection. Special collection really just describes the department where maybe the materials are a little more fragile, or there's something unique or particularly special about them. So rare books for us can mean like our 1493 copy of the Nuremberg Chronicle that we have, or it can mean a book that was published by a TU affiliated author that was given to us to commemorate a visit that they made to the school to give a presentation. So it means there's a broad description there. So for us, we collect these things and we make them available. We have certain procedures for how we handle them, and so that's kind of what separates us and makes us a little bit different from the general collections.
So, that 1493 book, would that be the oldest item that you have in your special collection?
That's a really good question, and it is one that we get often. It is not the oldest book in our collection. The oldest book in our collection is the book of Hebrews and Romans, bound with another book on sermons, and that dates to about 1150.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, we do have some really old stuff in the collection too. And sometimes we get the question, what is the newest item in our collections? We also collect newer books. So if they are very intrinsically tied to some of the topics that we collect on, we will purchase books that were published in 2026. We have stuff, especially new annotated versions of James Joyce's works. We have some of the newer editions as well.
That's really cool. Oh man, 1100s. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've visited a couple times. I've seen some things from John Milton and Paradise Lost editions.
Yeah, that's a fourth edition, but it's also the first illustrated edition. And the really cool thing about the issue of Paradise Lost that you're talking about is that it has the full list of all the subscribers in the back. So it lists all the people who were basically willing to help kickstart this edition of the poem. So it lists some famous people in British society. And that volume also has some evidence of, and I think this is really cool, some very old evidence of bookworms, which we don't see quite as often in newer books these days, but because that volume has changed hands so many times, at some point in the far past it did experience a little tiny pest outbreak, and we see evidence of that. So we do not have that in our collections. It is a very old example of it.
Yes, that's really interesting. So with old books like that, I understand that you have special ways of handling them, like people who visit can't actually touch the pages without permission. You have to have special tools.
Yeah, so we have special techniques and tools that we use to support access to the materials. We review and assess materials when they're requested to see what condition they're in. If it is particularly fragile, we may create a digital surrogate instead. We may make a photocopy of it that's easier, especially if it's a really popular item. Like there's a particular yearbook that we have from another school here in town that has a lot of interest. And so when a lot of people access something like that, they're turning the pages. Over time, it does acquire a little bit of damage. So having that copy of it for people to access and review makes it so that they can have the experience of turning the pages and it's the same size as the real item, but it lessens the amount of damage that we're incurring to the original item as well. But some of the techniques and tools that we use are, we will have book weights. Those are beaded, like weighted beads that we use to gently hold the pages open if the binding is really tight. We will also use foam wedge supports to hold the book kind of in a proper V shape. We use a micro spatula. I don't know how well you can see it. It's this guy right here.
Awesome.
I'll make it so it's shiny. So it has two ends. One is kind of rounded and one is kind of pointy. And this helps turn really soft and fragile pages. So as paper starts to age, especially as it's been used a lot, it loses its crispness, so it becomes really soft. The pages may become blunted on the sides, and it becomes really hard to get your finger around it to turn it. So you can wind up causing even more damage by, doing this to try to get it open. Definitely don't lick your finger. That would be the worst possible thing to do. So a tool like this helps get in and under the page that you're looking to turn, to help support it more accurately. I think often people are surprised to hear that we don't really wear the white cotton gloves that you see on TV or in the movies. There's just a few instances where we would put those on, and that's because those types of gloves really desensitize your fingertips. Your fingertips are just covered in a lot of nerves that help you know if something is starting to give or something is starting to tear, and that glove takes that away. Gloves also have things stick to them, so if you touch something and there's dirt on the page or some kind of residue, you pick that up in your gloves and you might transfer it to something else. So what we do is ask patrons to just come in with clean, freshly washed hands so that they can interact with items more sensitively. The one time when we definitely ask our patrons to wear gloves is when they're handling photographic negatives. So negatives will have the image is actually created using a chemical emulsion, and the oils on your fingertips can start to degrade it over time. So when we're handling negatives or photographic prints, we wear nitrile exam gloves, the blue gloves that you see at the doctor's office. So that is definitely when we definitely want to make sure we're protecting the items in front of us. But otherwise, we just use our hands.
That's really cool. Golly. I remember using the snakes and everything. That was really fun. The little things that keep it weighted.
Oh, yeah,
I think
yeah.
that was the thing you mentioned.
Yeah.
But how would you say that this would be helpful, and special collections in general would be helpful to a writer?
So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can think about this for a creative writer, especially if they're an author who is looking to add a sense of realism or draw on some elements of first-person narratives. I think a special collections is a really great way to get that texture and flavor through primary sources, because that's really what a special collections specializes in. We have a lot of journals and letters written by people who were experiencing World War I as it happened. And so you get the sense of their loneliness, of their homesickness, of their yearning to be with their family members, that they want to be, back with the people they love, and you get that. And you can also get a sense for, are they kind of holding back a little bit to make sure that the person reading the letter doesn't feel too bad for them, and that they're still kind of able to make it through the war effort in a lot of ways. There's also there's primary sources can also really provide factual information, and they can also provide, a sense of the way things were at the time. And what I mean is we have a very large collection of World War I propaganda posters. So how was the war being marketed to members of different countries? How was it being presented, especially through each different year of the war? So today we have a very retrospective sense of that, but how were people perceiving it as it was happening? We also have rare books. When I talk about how rare books are often, unique, or there's something really particular about them, they may have been signed by their author in a unique or unusual way, or there's a signature inside, or they may have even been owned by that author. We have multiple private libraries that belonged to famous people in the publishing world. So one example that I use is that we have 8 different first editions of James Joyce's Ulysses, because they belonged to different people who were in his orbit. So people like Rebecca West, Edmund Wilson, all these people were collecting that book. So when we have those private libraries, you think about all those books being together in that person's home or their office. How does the complete picture of that book or of that library inform what you know about the author's mindset or what they were studying or interested in at the time? So having that library gives a snapshot into that person's, thought processes and what they were studying. We also have a lot of stuff in the collections related to the history of publishing. And oftentimes what we see are researchers who, especially among the Joyceans, are very interested in the history, like in the step-by-step processes of how books are published. So traditional publishing, and I'm speaking primarily within the 20th century because everything's gone digital at this point. You see the step-by-step process of the initial draft, and then the revisions of the draft, and then eventually the typeset version, and you get the galley proofs, and maybe there are some mistakes. A comma is put in the wrong place. That is incredibly fascinating to scholars who are very dedicated to that level of detail. So when you have each of those different pieces of the history of a book's publication history, that can also be very useful to writers as well. So I think that kind of is some different facets of how a special collections can be useful to different types of writers as they pursue different angles of writing.
Definitely. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe interested in researching for a story or something, but maybe hasn't had a lot of experience with research?
Yeah, so any librarian's advice is always going to be ask your librarian. We know our collections really well, so if you're really looking for a particular type of firsthand narrative, we can help identify collections that maybe you haven't thought of or that might be surprising or unexpected. We really know our stuff because we operate within kind of a closed universe in a sense. The materials that we have up here are what we really specialize in, and we've worked with them for a long time, so we're aware of what's inside of them. We can help writers and researchers navigate the finding aids, which is a fancy term for the inventory of a collection, and we can, remember things from previous requests and help you identify things that might just fit the bill on what you're looking for. So come to us, come ask us, we're here to help you.
Thank you for that. So I have a few little get-to-know-you questions if you're game.
Sure.
So first of all, please describe your favorite sandwich.
My favorite sandwich, oh wow. There is one at Trencher's, I think, here in Tulsa. I think it's just like a plain turkey club, but they do it on this really good cheese bread that I think really enhances the experience. So for me, I think a cheese bread is really important, and I'm a plain mayo type of gal. I just really, for me, it's all about the carbs, I guess.
Mayo makes everything better. So if you could be the best at anything in the world, what would it be?
Gosh, that's a tall order. Man. Best at anything in the world. Maybe reading really thoroughly. Because I think that would be helpful to any librarian, especially since we get a lot of questions about the contents of different books in our collection. And when you have 150,000 volumes, that's a big ask sometimes. So to be able to not just read the books quickly, but read them thoroughly and really understand them, I think that would be an excellent skill to have.
Agreed. I have issues with that in school sometimes. I'll read a book and I'll get just the basics, and then some of my classmates will get all these deep things out of it, and I'm like, where did you get that? That is gross.
Yeah.
But what's your favorite song or genre?
My favorite song right now, it changes a lot. I am really into, I've had this on repeat lately, The Wild One by Suzi Quatro. It's an old song from the 70s. It's kind of a hard rock song, but it's got a really fun, upbeat energy to it that I like.
I have to look that up. I kind of like older 70s music like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, what kind of workspace do you need when you're writing or researching or doing your special collections thing?
So for writing or researching, we have a special reading room that's just for our patrons, and there's 6 desks set up where they can spread out with their laptop and have the materials that they're looking through. What I need as the director of special collections, I'm sitting here at a very large U-shaped desk. There are basically 3 desks together, and that's because when I'm processing a collection, I need a lot of space to spread out. The bulk of archive processing, like the physical organization, is often done in alphabetical or chronological order. And when collections come to us, they are pretty much never in a proper order. So to be able to sort things, you do need a pretty good amount of table space. Up in our archive lab, our preservation specialist, Melissa, has a table that's even bigger than my desk where she can work on different things, but she also uses it for encapsulation techniques. So if something needs to be put in a special mylar plastic sleeve, that's where she cuts the giant rolls of mylar to protect the materials.
Incredible. I didn't really have this on my list, but do you have a call to action for our viewers? Kind of a
Come visit us in special collections. If you're here in Tulsa, we love giving tours. We will have an exhibit up later this spring all about our publishers binding books. So those, as book creation and manufacture became mechanized, publishers began kind of attracting new purchasers by creating really fancy boards, covers on the books. So often they are pressed with gold, or they have filigrees, or they are really beautifully designed books from the Victorian era. It's not in just yet. We're anticipating probably after spring break, but we're hoping to get some of our many. We have so many, we're spoiled for choice that we're going to have to pare it down, but we're really looking forward to getting to show off some of our publishers' bindings.
And there are some beautiful things in that exhibit. I've seen some of them, the fancy letters and all, and
Yes.
like you mentioned, the
Yeah, they're really
gold.
cool.
It's so intricate and elaborate. Oh my goodness. And I think I remember hearing when I visited special collections that post medieval writers and binders and such really liked to emulate the medieval books. So a lot
Yeah,
of
we
them
even
would.
have some that have four-edge paintings. So four-edge paintings, when you think about the edge of a book, the open edge, like this is just a notepad, but four-edge paintings would take the edge like this and twist it, and someone would paint in a little scene that's kind of a secret special thing. So we have a collection of those as well, and some of them are really, really beautiful. There's images of like different lakes in Scotland. There's different. There's one that we just looked at earlier this week. That's a vertical painting of two people in riding habits, like they're out of a Jane Austen novel going for a ride together. It's really fancy.
That sounds really, really cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for being here. And thank you all for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and join us for Fun Friday. Thank you all very much. And we could not have done it without you.